we now get into sort of the history of war. Red is very powerfully egocentric.
Good, bad, I'm the guy with the gun.
The self becomes paramount. So this you would see in maybe children around 2 years old, maybe a little bit older, in yourself.
You might be a redneck.
But also in countries that are experiencing their own national identity for the first time or just getting there. The ruling elite of those small horticultural Neolithic societies begin realizing what their power means and what they can do with it. And it becomes apparent to them that they can spread out and take over other places, and that sort of becomes the goal of everything, is just to maximize your power, maximize your position in the pantheon of gods and ancestors, to get yourself a place among the stars, literally. Egyptian kingdoms are a great example of the kind of magenta into red movement. You see the gods with human bodies and animal heads, and what is desired of man is to construct the proper conditions during life in order to become guides and ancestors in the stars and ascend to that level. So that's a pretty common belief, probably inspired by use of entheogens and psychedelics. There seems to be a lot of support for that, although not conclusive. But it is safe to say that these people were experiencing transcendent states, and it's okay, again, if you don't believe in those or if you don't really know what those are or want to disinclude those, that's also fine. Just say that they were eating a bunch of psychedelic mushrooms and they believed that they were contacting entities on the other side or in the underworld or what have you. This becomes the backbone of pre-modern religions. A lot of the sources of the Old Testament of the Bible are red meme sources that were then codified into amber. This is the arising of the powerful ego, though, the sense of the self as powerful, and we actually see that reflected in reds tending to transform the gods into much more human-like creatures, starting with those sort of semi-human, semi-animal, partly nature spirits, becoming legendary hero gods, which can be real people, ordinary people, but they're giant, they have huge muscles, they can shoot fire out of their hands or call forth great miracles. These are power gods. It becomes unclear over time whether those are legends and lore of this area or whether those are religious beliefs. Again, religious is not a really clearly defined term in red yet. There is no science, there's nothing like that, and there's hardly any literature. So literature and religion and day-to-day belief are kind of largely the same thing. And yet there's also a growing sense that nothing is to be trusted, which is powerful acquisition of Red's skepticism and Red's capacity to say, I don't believe this narrative, is actually, even though we kind of hate on ego and violence and desire for conquest and power over others, we despise those in today's world where we're oversaturated with human egos. There was a time when they were actually extremely valuable, and that's why these people were worshipped as hero gods. So we see the local mountain range or the sky filling up with people-y creatures with people-y personalities, the Greek and Roman pantheons or Norse, these pantheons of characters. They're like a sitcom kind of going on. They're very transhuman. They're humans but with amped up to 11. So these are the gods of red, and they have personalities, but they aren't the river over there anymore. Now they're sort of in another plane, and the underworld, the overworld, the stars. Red becomes really, really problematic in the post-red world because what happens is you still have these red people who are, they have spears and bows, and they go and invade all the magenta villages and take everyone to the temple and rip their hearts out or, bury them alive or whatever they're going to do. That was pretty acceptable in that world, and that was, you could almost even argue that was a good thing in that world because it was bringing people together, creating a great society. It is not cool anymore, and they now have access to Uzis and machine AR-57s and chemical weapons and terrorist plots and nuclear possibly. So having red meme societies in today's technological world may be such a bad idea that it will wipe out life on the planet if we are mutually assured destruction, that is the reason that red meme has access to weapons that it would never find on its own, because it doesn't have the cognitive aptitude. But it is tricky, so it can just steal those or take that scientist and torture him until he tells him how to make a bomb or what have you. Historically, we're starting to see an actual like world happening where you might even notice people from space as being somewhat special. And we're also moving into where you actually find adult human beings. In today's world, in my country, in your country, there's plenty of red meme adults, just fully mature Homo sapiens who are at the red meme altitude, who are at red. Not so many at magenta. You could more, for magenta and infrared, you would describe it more as parts of a person being at that stage. You see a lot of magenta culturally expressed, but you don't find people that kind of live at that level and are interacting with modern technology. It wouldn't really occur, because when you interact with this technology, it transforms your personality and your mind, and that's how memes work. But red, yeah, you can be red in America, and you won't die. You won't be immediately transformed away from it. There will be a community to support you.